Jean-Marc Djian, JMD, welcome to the Free Trail Podcast. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hi, Debo. I'm very impressed. I'm going to speak English for 60 minutes, so don't make fun of me. And are you crazy to invite old people to talk about the sport? I enjoy listening to you, so I hope I won't be too boring. That's it.
Well, I have been looking forward to having you on the show forever, as I was telling you before we pressed record, and current circumstances has made this the perfect moment. And we'll talk all about that as we move into the podcast. Of course, it was just announced that you have stepped into the role as the global VP of Footwear for Satisfy Running, the very cool French brand that has captured the imagination of many in the sport. And you've also been kind of the original shoe dog in trail running, at least from my perspective. And you've had a front row seat to the evolution of product over time. And I think there's a rich and fascinating conversation to have together. Of course, you and I are also old friends from our mutual days at the North Face. So there's a lot to cover here, and I'm very grateful that you would spend the time here. JMD, we begin these podcasts in the same place for all our guests. So my opening question to you is, what makes you you? What are your unique strengths and weaknesses? How do they show up in your life?
Oh, so maybe I tell a little story as usual. And if I'm too long, you just tell me to shut up. Yeah. So I was the youngest kid in a family of 4 kids, 2 sisters and 1 brother. And my brother was playing hockey and was a goalie. And my entire life as a young kid was to beat my brother, to be better than he was. I know it's not nice, but I have to admit. And so my days were split into doing as many sports as I could. And ice hockey was my sport. You know, I was born in 66. Olympic Games were in 68 in Grenoble. So ice hockey was big, and it was like being born in Montreal, in Quebec, because of the Olympic Games. So I had the chance to play very much as a kid. And the second part of the day was every evening, my 2 sisters, they were treating me as their couple. So as if I was at school, and they were laying chairs, and they were doing some teaching lessons that were their dream in life to become teacher or professor. So I was they were asking me all the questions and so on. So my life has always been both. On one side, it's been sport, being competitive and so on. On the other side was to study, to read, and trying to match what my sisters, my cousin were super high in terms of studies and university. So this is me. This is me as a kid. So competitiveness, playing strength sport, like in France, playing ice hockey in France, and being a goalie in ice hockey, meaning looking at people, observing, stepping back, motivating, as well as traveling in the bus. I had the right as a goalie to do whatever I wanted, because the goalies were protected, were mad, insane.
Yeah.
So I had the chance to read. I could read when the others was chatting. So yeah, that was a fun one. And maybe go ahead.
Yeah. So equal parts competitor and lifelong academic or learner. And it's funny because obviously I want to come back and talk about your history with ice hockey, because it's a fun story. But maybe the better jumping off point here is something that Brett Rivers mentioned to me. I talked to Brett on the phone the other day, and he said that one thing that you're passionate about, in line with this balance between competition and academics, more or less, is he said that you're really passionate about the intersection of science and soul. So maybe we could talk about that briefly before we get to your hockey career. What does that mean to find the intersection of science and soul? And how does the search for that intersection inform the work you've done on product?
I mean, you're nailing it. This is my life. There is the rational part and there is the emotional part. Just yesterday, I was briefing a future product and I was coming with all the rational things and toolbox. And I know we're going to speak about Satisfy. And then I chatted with Brice and I say, hey, Brice, tell me what Brice, the founder and CEO of Satisfy, say, how do you see that? How do you see that? And then he started to speak about cowboy boots. And he started to speak about Rico Owens, and I'm like, yeah, go. So the science and soul of things is on one side really the rational, which is like rational of product, rational of business, rational of sport, rational of athletes winning. But I'm so much passionate by the connection, by people, by the potential. I can't see things as static. I always see things as dynamic. So I always see the potential of the opportunity of product, but mostly people and teams. So when I think about something, I think about the people, the feeling, how I was, how did I feel? And I do think that science and soul is certainly the combination of rational and emotional. And I think I'm quite 50-50. Sometimes I get too emotional.
Yeah.
And people know that. And sometimes I just want to win. And I'm like, hey, yeah, I start to block every idea, every negative things. And I go as an athlete, I would say.
I love it. So the balance between competition and learning and the balance between science and soul. What a great place to start. All right. So coming back to your athletic prowess, JMD, it's not every day that I get an Olympian on the podcast here. As you mentioned, you were an ice hockey player and a goalie. I'd love to hear just you speak about the Olympic experience for you and also the psychology of being a goalie, because I played the game of lacrosse. And the goalie is, of course, a critical position on the field. Inherently, that individual occupies an important role on the team and oftentimes is one of the leaders. So talk about your Olympic experience and what made you want to be a goalie.
So, yeah, we could write a book about the psychology of goalies, especially in some crazy sports like lacrosse and ice hockey, when you get a lot of shots and against, and sometimes you can be the complete hero, or sometimes really the person that makes your team lose if you don't make the save. I became a goalie, as I mentioned, because my brother was a goalie, and I found that all the gears were fantastic. So my first thing was like, I want to touch the mask. I want to see those pads. They were in leather. They were super heavy. I want to carry those gloves. I want to play, but I want to be a goalie, but I touch the puck and try to score. So I was very rebellious. I was kind of crazy in the net. And then, yeah, you learn a little bit of being by yourself as a team. So your team can be with you or against you. Sometimes you can read in the eyes when you are doing an amazing game and you know that no one will be able to score a goal against you, so you can feel it from the start. And sometimes I was like thinking in my brain during the game, like a puck is very small and goes very fast and slides very, very fast, so I won't be able to stop a puck today. So this mental game of resetting, like when I was scored a goal, to reset, to change my mind immediately was the most important. Today we would say to be resilient was certainly I would say the most important thing in my career, to totally reset. I think Kobe Bryant, he said something amazing about not being able to score during like one quarter and missing 5 shots and then resetting his brain like a computer. And when I read that from Kobe, I'm like, this is exactly what I was doing. And my tip was when I was scored a goal, I was looking at the guy scoring against me and I was smiling and laughing. And I say, come back, my friend, come back.
Yeah.
So I had to find tricks.
So do you think that ability to reset has been the most important lesson from your hockey career as it applies to your professional career that we'll start talking about soon?
I would say so. I found my first job, I found it very easy. People were talking about pressure and deadlines and I don't know, having a yearly review. I'm like, I had a review every 2 days. And what do you mean about pressure? So sometimes people were telling me, hey, you are maybe a little bit too intense. You know that people don't work during the weekend or don't work at night or don't work at 4 a.m. I'm like, if you're a hockey goalie or professional, you work 24/7.
You work until the job is done. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I think this way, but also the dynamics in a team. I had amazing coaches. I had coaches that I really did not appreciate. And by the way, we became champion with the worst coaches that I had. So we needed to find dynamics and the way to the journey to win was really different and not always the one that you could imagine. So I could learn in a team and in a team room and with the dynamics, with the striker, the defenseman, the people doubting, the people getting injured, the young people willing to take your position and so on. I mean, you have everything in a sport that you can find in a corporation, but corporation is a little bit nicer, I would say, than in a team.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you for setting the context here for the audience. Like I said, it's rare that you get two-time Olympian here on the podcast, Jean-Marc Djian, the goalkeeper for the French national hockey team. And of course, one of the things that I'm very interested in is just that overlap between sport and business and stuff. And I think there's a fun opportunity to talk about that subject with you here. So maybe we just bring the story full circle. Obviously, you transitioned from your professional ice hockey career to a career working in product that has eventually made you one of the all-time greats in creating trail running footwear. And we'll discuss that legacy here in a second. But Brett Rivers also told me that once you transitioned into working at Salomon, where you spent almost 2 decades, the original product he thought that you were working on was roller hockey, like rollerblades. So for the audience, just tell us how you transitioned from being a pro athlete into working at Salomon and what that initial project was that you're working on.
Wow. I try to make it short. So my first ever job after ice hockey and graduating from a business school was with Benetton Sport System. And Benetton Sport System was launching, just bought rollerblade from the founder in Minneapolis and was launching rollerblade all around the globe. And at that time, I was starting to launch some roller hockey tournaments with friends. And then we created the federation. And then we had a big tournament where it was not a tournament, it was a big party where I invited all my friends from the national team to come one weekend in Grenoble to have a party and play roller hockey. And then people from Rollerblade, they called me and they asked me if I wanted to join them. And that's the way it started. It all started this way. So on Sunday, I was having a big party. And on Monday, they asked me if I wanted to join them and launch Rollerblade, which was a good transition, easy transition for me. And then fast forward, someone called me and said, "You want to join Salomon? We are launching inline skates, rollerblades." And I said, "Why not? Where is that? In Annecy?" "Oh no, I'm from Grenoble. I don't want to move that far, like 1 hour." So then I moved. I was doing sports marketing, and then I found that even though the product was a fad, like it didn't last very long, that we were selling a product with like injected pieces, plastic, soft upper, aluminum frame, 4 wheels, 8 bearings, the same price as an XA Pro 3D. What was going so? We did not make a lot of money. At that time, Jean-Luc Diard was the president of Salomon, and he was like, "Jean-Marc, have fun, do whatever you want, learn, and then there's something else for you very soon." So I really love the product, the way it was created. I learned everything from a development and factory point of view. No, that was an interesting project and a complete failure. So, but we did good during 3-4 years. Yes.
Well, like you just said, sometimes the path to winning is the unanticipated path. And maybe before we get to that, you just mentioned Jean-Luc Diard, and this would be something that I think people would be interested in. Of course, he and Nico Mermoud founded HOKA, and you three have been such pioneers in many ways, and it sounds like you probably know each other very well. So maybe you could just say a few words about Jean-Luc Diard, Nico Mermoud, and like the project with HOKA, and having a front row seat more or less to seeing where that brand has gone in a short period of time.
So Jean-Luc has always been an amazing visionary, and I was always going to his office when I had a new product, and I was like, "Jean-Luc, I'm young in my job. What do you think?" He say, "Wow, this is fantastic. Okay, I can't get this product getting fixed. Like the tongue is not good. Okay, let me help you. Let's organize a test. I will join, and so everyone will come, and then we'll fix it." So I'm telling this story because this is the way he is. He can be amazing visionary, but he will always test the stuff. He will think about the next things. He was taking me to some motorcycles stores just to look at the different segments of the sport and the positioning of each and every motorbike, to tell me, "Hey, we need to create the new off-road. We need to create the trail. We need to create the racing one. Let's look at the tires. Let's look at the propulsion. Let's look at the suspension." So it's been so much inspiring. And then when he left Salomon, and it was all about Five Finger and the New Balance Zero Drop, and Anton, by the way, who's running again, and we'll do the UTMB next year.
Yes.
Running with his NB,
the Minimus.
And the Minimus, exactly. Wow. And when he started the last project, he was working, was everything that was oversized. So oversized in tennis rackets, oversized in wheels, in tires, oversized in the Mini Cooper, becoming like much bigger.
Yeah.
And there was this pendulum.
The skis were becoming fatter at that time.
Skis, yeah, yeah, exactly. So what I'm saying is maybe a little caricatural, but together with Nico and then Christophe Aubonnet, they started to be totally crazy and test those crazy ideas type of product. I tested one. I almost died. I fell on the wrong side.
Yeah. Because
the control of the first Mafate Protos were kind of strange, and they believe in their project. They believe in their story, and yeah. And then, yeah, meeting people telling me, I ran in them. I was at Salomon and meeting people in stores and telling, yeah, I did the Western States. And during the downhill, I felt that I was cheating. Yeah. Because it was so fast and easy to run downhill. I'm like, wow, they really created something special. This is Jean-Luc. Yeah. He did it in skis. He did it in ski boots. Now with HOKA, he's more than a legend.
My all-time dream is to do a panel discussion with you, Jean-Luc, Christophe, Nico. I mean, come on, it would be the most French but most amazing conversation about the history of trail running footwear and the progression over time that you guys have been the leaders.
We should.
Yeah, and pushing that forward. All right, we're gonna make that happen.
Yeah. And we should invite maybe Patrick Ponce-Devier, who was in charge of Brooks Running in Seattle. And is
he another French guy?
He's a French guy.
Why are you French guys such good trail running footwear developers? My goodness.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
All right. So this is the perfect transition. You mentioned Jean-Luc being a visionary, but I think a lot of people would classify you similarly. I think one of the real gifts that you have is your ability to see around corners and to see new opportunities. And I think this new path with Satisfy represents that. But sticking with your history at Salomon, I heard that there's a good story about the early days, when you're transitioning from the failed roller hockey product line, that you in some way were critical in getting Salomon to commit to creating trail running footwear, which has become central to the business and something that has helped the brand be enormously successful globally. Can you tell us about that moment? Were you personally responsible for advocating to move in the direction of faster and lighter trail footwear with Salomon?
Yeah, so on my side, it started in 2005 or 2006. And Patrick, by the way, was in charge of footwear at that time. He was like asking me every day, join me with the footwear team. And I'm like, no, look at the wall. It's boring. It's so bad. So we're doing sport together. And every time was like, join me. And then after a while, I say, okay, let me join you. And the deal was, joining him was doing a 4 months immersion in the US. So I went to Portland, Oregon, where we had our HQ in the US, and I started a 4 months immersion, going in every state, meeting so many people, distribution, meeting Bill Sterling in Turkey, Brendan in Alpenglow in Tahoe, spending a lot of time in Boulder. And I came back, it was obvious. So the movement already started, but I was there in order to say, what's the trend? What should we do? And should we buy a brand? We were in our mind, there was no French brands that were able to win in the US. So we were not winning in the US. We were like around 100 million revenue and flat for 5-6 years. And nothing was happening in footwear. And coming back, we had discussion, and it was obvious that Fast and Light was there. Adventure racing was existing, and everything was telling me about XA Pro is outstanding. We want lighter and faster product. We want to run fast. We don't want to hike anymore. We want lighter everything. So trail running is there, light and fast is there, and for the future. And the decision was made, and we decided to get rid of all the rest, including mountaineering. So the guy in charge of Switzerland, he literally wanted to kill me. I say, and that's where we started to turbocharge on fast and light. And trail running and bring newness. So
what gave you the conviction? What gave you the conviction that it was a big opportunity? And also, I heard that there was an AMR board meeting where you personally identified Killian as being the athlete that Salomon needed to target. Is that a true story?
I was not the one identifying, but it's difficult to say. There was a board meeting with Hammer where they considered that trail running was not a market. Yeah. So trail running was not existing and was not a market. So too small. So at that time, my boss told me, "Hey, Jean-Marc, be nice. It's a board meeting. So don't talk about trail running. Talk about running. Don't talk about S-Lab and don't talk about Kilian." And after 5 minutes, it was all about trail running, about Kilian, and about S-Lab and innovation. So, a kind of little rebellious, in a way. And I was always plugging, big pictures of Kilian Jornet all the time as an intro, saying this is the future. We need an athlete that is telling us where it's going. And I mean, when he was 20 years old and he won the UTMB, it totally changed the sport and the way people were perceiving trail running. The silhouette became totally different, fast and light, closer to the body. I mean, compression things. I don't want to say that it was good or bad, but it totally changed. Compression white at the Western States. But also the funny story at that time, the trail running world or the word trail running or I am a trail runner was not really existing.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that were asking us to call it a different way because of ACG, Nike ACG launching it many years ago. It didn't work. So we had a lot of people asking us, can you find another name? Because it's connected to something that didn't work. So the connection of having Kilian as a hero athlete, a muse, the new outfit that was showing the modern era of the sport in the mountain, and then the identity, like naming it as a sport, trail running. I'm a trail runner. I am dressed as a trail runner. I'm not a hiker. Changed everything, and we've been following this path from day one, I would say.
What an interesting counterfactual it is to contemplate where Salomon would be now had it not identified trail running as being this massive opportunity and had it not connected with a young Kilian Jornet at the ground floor of his transcendent career. So before we move off Salomon, sort of the 2010 to 2015 era, I feel like, is a moment in time in trail running that was enormously special. It was sort of as I was coming into the sport, so maybe this is just my personal perspective, but my sense is that it was also probably an incredible moment to be at the brand and working on the product and with the athlete team, not only Kilian, but of course, Anna Frost was there. Francois Den was in the early phases of his career. Julien Choyer was there at the time. Iker Carrera, Miguel Haras, some of the all-time legends. Of course, Salomon Running TV launched at that time and influenced thousands and thousands of people, myself included, and did such a good job of finding that intersection between science and soul, right? Between sport and lifestyle. And I wondered if maybe you could just talk about that moment in time for a bit and what it was like working internally. If there's any words you can use to capture the feeling and momentum at Salomon during that era.
I think we felt, so number one, Salomon is known for being engineers and sports marketing and athletes. And it happened in the skis, it happened in snowboard, it happened in ski boot, in Nordic ski, and we felt that we were at the level of the brand, at the level of George Salomon at that time, that really in a mission of convincing people that, okay, there are 300 people at the start of the race, but you will see one day there will be multiple races the same weekend. One day UTMB will be huge. One day in the US, it will become an amazing sport. One day people from all over the world and from the cities to the mountain will will be on the trail. It was really like kind of being on a mission to do that. And the main thing that happened from the people from the brand was to invest and spend so much time and means to help and support the community. It's been really planned. It's been discussed, planned, organized to have community managers, to have Salomon TV, to portray the athletes, to help the magazines, to help the event organizers, to help the athletes, to build more team. It's been like, I can remember this moment where the decision was made that the goal of Salomon was to grow the sport and to support and help the community. And I will never forget this because it's been a mantra for me since then, that if you want to win, you help everyone. So no competition at that time, I would say, and just trying to help to grow the sport. And it has not been very easy, but now I'm smiling a lot. And when I reflect on it, I find it very, it was very ambitious and a little crazy.
Yeah. And what a noble mission, right? And understanding that if you do grow the sport and support the media, the industry people, the race organizers, that eventually that will influence the bottom line of the business too. But having the noble intention of being supportive first is a great way to probably feel mission driven. You mentioned S-Lab, and I think this is something that a lot of people have heard about but don't really know about. And I know you were instrumental in kind of setting that up. So maybe you could speak about that briefly. And then also, before we move off Salomon, I'd love to hear you talk about the XT product specifically, because that's the shoe that Kilian was wearing in 2008. And in 2019, it was the GQ sneaker of the year. So it transcended sport performance, winning the biggest race in the world in 2008, to become something that, you know, now is hip and cool and part of the culture in a way that, you know, is pretty fascinating and indicative of how far the sport has come. So obviously that's a big question. So say a few words about S-Lab and about the XT specifically.
Yeah. S-Lab, I mean, the very beginning, and you mentioned the names of the athletes, and understanding from the start that they all had different needs, and we needed to do a service to athletes. And then we started to have a division that was only doing that, creating like custom last, custom products, and then finessing. And then from that service to athletes. And by the way, the Salomon Design Center here in Annecy, I mean, the facilities are outstanding to prototype. And from that was like more and more people were willing to buy the shoes used by the athletes. We're like, you can't. It's like one of a kind. It's like one for the athletes. So then the decision was like, as you can see in racing, in motorsports and ski, we decided to give the opportunity to more people to have access to those proto, I would say, and S-Lab started also in footwear at that time, and then we started with the XT wings, which was in a way bringing stability but going faster. Everything was going much faster. Running brands were entering the sports, so there were more and more influence coming from running brands. So it was like, oh, we've got the most stable shoe with the XA Pro 3D. We've got the chassis. You need protection, you need stability, but you want to go lighter and faster. So the XT wings was born as an extension and a faster XA Pro. So Kilian won with it. And what else to say? And then we started to write performance is lifestyle. I mean, and that's right now sneaker like running styles were the most used styles from Nike that you could use in the street. And we started to write down that trail running will be the new lifestyle as a style of life, but also something you will wear. And the rest is history. It's been the Broken Arm in Paris that is the most fashion store and boutique. And then Boris Bidjan, the creator, who felt a total passion about the brand, and they contacted us. they said, we want to work with you. We love trail running. We want to have trail running crews. We'd like to play and get your product. So so internally, having a S Lab going to fashion, a lot of people wanted to kill us again, and I was against. I was against at the start, and then after you can see that that people were able to scale it at Salomon in a proper way. But at that time, engineers, innovation, and sports and community are the ingredient for the brand. So I hope that in the future, Salomon will continue to innovate and play and work with the community. This is the only way for this brand to win.
Yeah. Yeah. The XT is such a fun story from the sport, and now is a signal of hipness and coolness. If you see somebody wearing it, 99% of them in all likelihood have no idea who won the UTMB in 2008. But for those of us who've been around for that long and who have been, celebrating the lifestyle, as you called it, it's pretty awesome. All right.
It's funny. Maybe Debo, just one thing in Boulder. The first time I was in Boulder, like 2 years ago, and I saw someone wearing XT6, and still my brain was maybe a little jet lagged. And I asked the person, "Are you working for Salomon?" No. So I'm like, okay, yeah. So I was still in the mood that if you wear a Salomon shoe in the street, it means you work for Salomon. But things have changed so much since, I don't know, 5-6 years.
Yeah, times have changed. Okay, so after nearly 20 years at Salomon, you joined the North Face, and I still remember when you were announced, the athlete team especially was incredibly excited, and it's no secret that those early days of footwear development at the North Face were very hard. My initial contract as a professional athlete for the North Face, it said, you do not need to wear our footwear if you don't want to. And it was under your leadership that things finally changed, and that North Face finally developed some amazing footwear products. When we talked at TRE, you said the proof is on the podium, which I thought was the perfect mic drop. But I'd love to just talk about that 0 to 1 process at TNF and how you went from the challenging situation to now having multiple UTMB winners, et cetera. So maybe just starting for our listeners here who don't come from a product background, like what makes footwear hard? For a brand like the North Face, why was it hard, even with their scale and size, to, finally arrive at a footwear offering that rose to the highest standards?
Most of the people, they want to win easily and in a fast mode. So next year, you're gonna create a product that is amazing, or the brand is so famous that just put a big logo on the shoe and it will sell, because the brand has so much awareness and we are selling so many jackets. So everyone loves the brand. So just put a big logo on the shoe and it will work and everyone will love it. They've been trying so many decades and it never worked. So the mantra was there are no shortcuts. You need to come back to the essence of the brand and the way the brand has been born, and why an Upsy is called an Upsy jacket, why a Denali is called a Denali jacket, because they were created and used in expedition with the badass athletes of the world that were like doing some premiere. And if you want to be at the level of the brand, you just need to start from that and start from the athletes. So yes, to my surprise, none of the athletes were wearing North Face footwear, or they were very polite, but they didn't want to. So doing footwear is a piece of equipment. So it requires a lot of tests, a lot of expertise to have the best team, to prototype, to tinker, to make things to fail, to come back and find your way. So the main roadblock is time. Time. People they want everything very easily, and it takes time to create a product, 18 to 24 months. It takes time to launch it and to succeed. And it takes maybe 1, 2, 3 versions to polish it and be perfect. And I feel that after 6 years at the North Face, there are so many patents, so many podiums, so many amazing athletes, so many athletes that are not from the North Face asking me to have access to products. And Katie Scheid and Zach Miller and John Albon and Shen Jiasheng and Germain. I mean, they not only that they are amazing racers, but they love the product. They love pushing the limits of amazing product with a plate propulsion or a low stack, or give me a product to go everywhere. Give me Ben Vedrin. I want a proto that takes me to the top of K2 or the Everest with David Guttler. So that's the most rewarding. And now footwear is now becoming part of the culture of the North Face. And I feel very proud for my team, for Keith, for Marion, for all the people at the North Face, that footwear is now winning. And that's outstanding to see that.
Say more about that, because as I was thinking about it, it was one of the things that came to mind, and that the DNA of a brand is hard to change. And the North Face is, of course, obviously an apparel first business, or has been for the duration of its history. And so part of your job at the North Face was evolving the DNA of the brand to make it something where footwear was on equal footing, or at least the performance of the footwear was on equal footing with the apparel. How do you go about doing that? That feels like another intersection between science and soul.
Yeah, I don't know if I succeeded totally to do that. My first reaction was, I'm going to help you, but as a consultant. I'm going to help you as someone that has been spending a lot of time in corporation, and I want my freedom, so I'm going to help you. And at that time, Arne, the president of the North Face, told me, no, one part is to innovate. One part is to bring product, but the biggest part will be to change the culture and the mindset internally. So if you want to do that, you need to join the North Face, and you need to make this change happen internally. It's been very hard. It's been very hard because I was working from France, waiting for my visa, and then trying to now to join the team in the US. Then something like COVID hit, so I spent a lot of time on Zoom, trying to improve my English and trying to sleep sometime. And then I moved 2 years in the US. And now I see that little by little, by creating performance product that people respect and love and win, and then beautiful product, collabs with Sean Rabutu, approach shoes, a beautiful shoe called the Glencliff that was sold out instantly. Then people feel proud and start to wear them. And the first criteria is when people internally are starting to wear them, and not that you force them to wear them.
Yeah.
But people start to get them, buy them, ask you, can I have a pair? Can I get this color? Why? The Japanese team, they have access to those. Why can't I have them? And feeling also the pressure from the athletes asking for more innovation. So I'm super proud of what's happening and all the, not only the podiums, but I see also the business success, the distribution that is now asking more and more. I mentioned people like Marion, who is like taking the flag, Kisburn, that you know very much, who has been my advocate, Rob Duchiken, the CFO and guy running the Western States 2 times, and like pushing me all the time in Boulder to get the new product. So yeah.
Okay.
It's been science and soul.
Science and soul. Okay. So before we start talking about Satisfy here, you just made me think of something else that might be really interesting to contemplate here and for the audience to learn from you. You've mentioned innovation a number of times. Also, you just said like the business side of things is also important, right? So the balance between science and soul, there's also a balance between innovation and commercialization. And I wonder for you, you went to business school. It sounds like you're passionate about innovation. Where do you sit in that spectrum, right? Does the business side of things, like obviously there's decisions that have to be made that probably require a sacrifice in innovation, or you do have to find the balance that's right for the business, creating great product, but also something that the market will respond well to. Is there anything powerful that you've learned about finding that balance in your career?
The whole organization and people are always pushing you to do a lot of compromise, whether it's the price, the cost, the margin, the ability to go faster to a certain type of distribution. I've learned that you don't dictate when you are creating bestsellers and icons. And if the icon is right, it can be any price and it can start in any type of distribution, and then consumer will choose, adopt it, and will make it bigger. So when you are targeting a product for a certain type of distribution and that the brand is not ready, or you didn't prove before, or you didn't create the conditions to be respected, to be known, and to be desired, there's no chance it will work. So that's one of the key learning. And as a person, I consider that innovating and making sure that the innovation is meaningful, meaning for most people. You innovate not only for the top athlete, for most people, then business will follow. Business will follow. The opposite doesn't work. The opposite doesn't work. There are so many great brands, great product, great offers that you need to have something special to win and to continue to improve in order to win in business. So once again, there's no shortcut for that.
Very interesting. Okay, Satisfy. So at UTMB, it was announced that you are the new VP of Footwear for Satisfy, one of the most interesting brands in the sport. I was texting you before I left over for Europe, basically saying, hey, JMD, I'm going to be coming over for UTMB. I really want to catch up. I want to hear what you're up to. And then boom, the news dropped. And I was like, wow, Jean-Marc, Satisfy. So I think just starting there, what made Satisfy the compelling next step for you? Because to me, it feels like a very intentional and maybe counterintuitive development.
Exactly. I would say I've always connected and I would say known and followed Satisfy since day one. I mean, funny story, Brice is from Grenoble, from my hometown. So the founder and CEO, and I've known his family since many years. So it's been really a brand and someone I've been connecting with and followed with, and that I have always admired. as a person. And I would say, coming back to France, coming back to Europe, Brice called me first to discuss about his future, about the brand, about what he wanted to do and why, meeting with some investors, as well. And at first I'm like, I'm going to help you. Whatever happens, I'm going to help you. And then I went to Paris and I discovered, another genius, as simple as that. And we was really the missing link of certainly all what I've been looking at. So there is performance becoming lifestyle, but now there is the cultural aspect. There is the aspect of people I met at Satisfy. They have most of them, they have a skateboard, a surfing, and a snowboard background. And one day they decided that their new drug would be running. But they came to this sport with amazing respect, with their codes, and with the will to bring this culture, to bring this crew mindset and this rebellious mindset, that is outstanding. And when I went to Paris to visit Brice, it was crazy, because the way the product is technical, the way the material are curated, the way you feel like you are in a haute couture, French savoir-faire atelier, yet working like the best curation of material and product and attention to detail, like the best Japanese brand or the Japanese collab, and with a US skate culture. So I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. And yeah, I found that it's going to be big. It's going to be big because the community is there. And people there are people that are more than passionate and loving the brand. And the brand is small, certainly smaller than what people think. But the love, the desire,
the ambition
to detail. Yes, the ambition is great.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So
as usual.
So this is a perfect segue too, because I wanted to ask you about going from the mega corporation to the smaller, disruptive underdog brand, because it requires a different skill set and a different mindset. They're certainly lucky to have you, but also it'll probably stretch you and challenge you in new ways as somebody who's been part of the sport, part of the culture, and one of the all-time great product guys in the footwear department in the history of trail running. Still, this will be a challenge in a new way for you. Talk about that. In what ways do you expect that this might challenge you to grow professionally?
This is a challenge. I feel that culturally we are on the same page. Even if I am certainly the oldest guy of the team, but I love the challenge. I love not being in a comfort zone. Meaning, when I have a questions, I do that and I ask, and there's nobody. So I ask the question to me. So I don't have like 20 people to tell me how we're going to go there, and so on. But the main thing is learning. I am learning so much. We are taking decisions like every hour. We are taking decisions for the distribution and for agents and for the way we are going to go to market, the way we are going to show up at TRE. It's like, yeah, every hour we go in a super fast mode with a super core team, and it's really action based, and it's not comfortable, but I love it. That's why this is really why I joined Brice and the Satisfy team.
Awesome. So looking ahead, when it was announced that you were joining the team on LinkedIn, the final sentence said something to the effect of, "We look forward to seeing you at TRE," meaning the running event, which will be in Austin, Texas in November. I'm sure you can't reveal too much, but I'm sure a lot of people are like myself now thinking, okay, well, Satisfy clearly is going to be doing something new and innovative with one of the best at the helm. Is there anything that you can tease for what to expect at TRE and beyond?
Yeah, TRE will be special. Satisfy is always showing up as a super curated, clean, and highly technical, using the best material and the best ingredient, the Satisfy way, and in a boutique mindset. So yes, there will be newness, there will be new product, new category, a la Satisfy. So I think it's gonna be fun. So I'll see you there, Debo.
I'll see you there. Maybe we could talk in general from a meta level about the brand landscape right now, because it has been so interesting and the sport has grown so much and there's so many different players, but we're also seeing the rise of these disruptor brands, Satisfy being one of the major examples. Obviously, I've been working with the Speedland guys for a few years. Norda just announced their new shoe that looks nice. And then on the sort of road and track side, Bandit and Tracksmith are really resonating with the market and with the consumer in a new way. Do you think about that stuff at all? Like, cause is part of this intentional move to Satisfy another example of you seeing around the corner of what's happening in the market and, the power these disruptor brands have at the moment compared to the incumbents?
I do think you're totally right. It's happening. It's happening where I would say trail running or the sport was really in the mountain, and then it attracted so many more people from all over the world, including people that came from the cities and came with their codes, respecting the outdoor, loving the trail, coming with their way of training, their way of willing to go in the mountains, but also their codes, their culture, their music, and so on. And this is almost where I come from, either way, being always curious and so on. And it means that the sport is getting bigger. I would say Salomon has done a lot in order to bring trail running as a trend, but it goes way beyond that. People, they want the ability to run. They want to join a crew. They want to get connected to the best door. They want to have their experience with SFRC and go to Mountain, or they want to be with Renegade and be part of this team and be dressed as a crew, meet people, have fun. And this is way bigger than everything that I have seen. And it's happening all over the world. There are like the passion for running, the passion for the outdoor, the passion for being part of a team, of a movement. And we started to send, and maybe you saw on LinkedIn that we are recruiting Salesforce for the US, and we received like maybe 60 resume from the US. It's crazy what people have been writing, how much running and trail running changed their life, how much they express themselves in the sport, but together with their culture, and how much they rely and they are connected to the video of Satisfy in LA, from downtown LA to Venice Beach, about the music that was there, about the Possessed magazine, or they were part of a LSD running event, the long slow distance crew. So they are telling us that they chose their lifestyle and they want to be part of this movement. So it's happening. Today it's still, I would say, small, but look at trail running. Nobody believed that it would become a major sport, and this is happening in a different way, but in a very with a lot of analogy to that.
It's so funny, and we experience the same phenomenon at Free Trail, even though we aren't currently hiring. We get inbound every week of people who are just like, I love this sport. It has changed my life. I will do anything that you want me to do. Just hire me. I want to work in trail running. And it's a beautiful thing and a representation of just what a special activity we've been connected with. Maybe one other meta question before we start winding down here, Jean-Marc. Just like talking about the evolution of footwear over time, like it does feel like this is an interesting moment too. We talked about the early days at Salomon, the XT winning UTMB and being the sneaker of the year. Now, like the carbon plated shoe is a big discussion point. The North Face, I think, was the first brand to bring a carbon plated shoe to market. So if there's anything that you want to say about just that macro evolution and the point that we're at now, I'm sure the audience would be curious to hear.
So yeah, the sport is going faster and faster. At the UTMB, having so many athletes now breaking the 20 hours for the men, and Katie was what, 22 something. So,
yeah, 22 low.
The way the sport is progressing in the women's field is crazy. And then so many, I was going to say kids running, including people working on prototypes for gym and winning the UTMB this year, which is one of the most epic moments of the sport. I still can't believe it. I
agree.
This is amazing. So yeah, the sport is going faster, and also the background of the runner is different. So I saw that Vincent was, what's his nickname? You have a nickname for him, Vince B, or
Vinny B, the dark horse.
Okay, yes. Vinny B was doing track and field, so he's used to speed. And Katie for Western State, Katie Scheid, she's been training and she's been improving her speed as well as her resistance. But the start of the race is much faster.
Yeah.
So still people are looking in the road running industry and shoes and the super critical foam and the lightness and the durability and protection. So on one side, there's a very strong improvement in trail running. And you can see it also for the people going on the top of the mountain, like K2, Everest. The products are getting super durable, but lighter. And you can do more things with those products. And people, they want to climb up and fly down. So the products are evolving. So I would say getting lighter, getting even faster, or feeling faster and feeling a badass when you wear your shoe is now key. Maybe the one thing that is also evolving is the outdoor becoming more and more trending. There are more and more silhouettes towards climbing that are getting more and more popular.
Yeah.
So trail running is cool. Next will certainly be more around approach and climbing in terms of silhouettes. And that's very interesting what's happening also in the street today.
Very, very interesting. Okay, one final thing before we get to the traditional closing question here. You mentioned Ben Vedrine earlier in our conversation. You just mentioned K2 and flying off. And this is something that Brett Rivers asked me to prompt you with also when we were talking about you the other day. He was like, you should ask him like what athletes are really pushing things forward right now. And I guarantee you he'll talk about Ben Vidrine. So who is Ben Vidrine for our mostly trail running audience? And maybe in what ways did he inspire or influence you as you were, thinking about products to create?
I met him maybe 2 or 3 years ago at the North Face. So François Esmargeau was in charge of sports marketing for France for the North Face. I met him. I can't remember how. He comes from Hautes-Alpes, from Briançon, which is, there is Chamonix on one side and there is the other part, another valley. And one day speaking with Kilian, I'm like, one day there will be someone, woman or man, that does everything you do, but will go vertical. So someone coming from the climbing environment was all the skills to go super fast vertically, and we'll have the same cardio as you have, the same VO2 max, but can go like amazingly fast, taking a lot of risk, and will mix everything in the outdoors: skimo, climbing, alpinism, running, flying, and so on. And then this guy, Ben Vidrine. And by the way, maybe 3 months ago, I received a video from Kilian Jornet, and I didn't know he was welcoming Ben Vidrine in Norway to help him work on his K2 ascent and the how do you say that, acclimatization?
Yep.
Like the way to. So they sent me a video, both of them skiing in the snow in Norway, in a couloir, together. And I'm like, wow, this is such an amazing epiphany or moment in sport. So, the sport is, Ben Vidrine is pushing the sport, is pushing the product, is pushing also the way to go up and be safe in the mountain. Is also a witness of what's happening in the mountain, in Himalaya, in Everest, in K2, for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
So he's an amazing athlete, very inspirational, I would say. I see that I speak too much. I speak a lot. That's my passion.
So to be specific though, didn't he just like run up K2 and then fly off the top with like a paragliding?
Yeah, that's what he did. Yeah, he had the record. I think he told everyone he will do it in 11 hours. I think he did 10, 59, 55.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then he's been flying, down, and he's super humble. He's amazingly nice with people.
Just like Kilian.
He's an introvert.
Yeah.
He was on Brett Rivers, on Marion, on Kiss, on my presentation. He was always on the cover of the presentation so that people, they know who he is, and then he becomes a global athlete. And then all his expeditions are getting funded. So, a little bit like Kilian is giving him all the visibility and awareness that North Face France and then EMEA and then global, and he's a rock star.
It's funny, I had never heard of him until Brett brought him up on our phone call, and immediately I went and followed him on Instagram and spent like 30 minutes just scrolling through his profile. Very interesting athlete. I'll make sure to link to information about Ben in the show notes of our episode. Jean-Marc, it's so fun to have you on the show and go long form like this. I feel like we could continue on for hours and hours, but I have a traditional closing question here that I ask to everybody who comes on the show. That is just, who is one person that you admire? This person could be inside or outside of sport, living or dead. Why do you admire that person?
So it's very challenging, and we've been speaking about a lot of people that I admire a lot, whether it's Jean-Luc Diard, Patrick Ponce-Devier in a business side, Jaromir Jagr as a hockey player, because he was crazy coming from Czechoslovakia and still playing. He's 52 years old and playing for the many teams, but including the Pittsburgh Penguins, and having his mullet and being a stud and crazy. But my answer is going to be amazingly obvious. If I had to choose one person I admire the most, this is Kylian Jornet.
Yeah.
And I've been circling, and because I've been witnessing someone from his early 20s, like maybe 18, 19 years old, and now, and he tries to get better. He tries to progress every year. A lot of time I'm like, why is he doing that? Why? And there's no good answer. He needs it. He wants it. This is human nature. He wants to progress. He wants to show himself. He wants to prove that this is possible. What he did in Sierzinal, what he did with the 82 summits, the summit of my life, Everest, like one day winning the UTMB and then telling us, I think this is boring. And then he was looking at the top of the Mont Blanc and say, okay, let's go up. And then it's not enough. Let's go even higher. But also, I would say, briefing product. I mean, you meet so many athletes that are outstanding, but sometimes they love the sport, but they are not able to talk about product. So I think someone that write books, change the sport forever, has an amazing ethic, a foundation who is driven and wants to progress. I've never seen that in any sport. Mm-hmm. I've never met anyone like that in any sport, and sharing. And we were talking about Ben Vedrin. Most of the time, athletes are very competitive and they don't want to share. And He opens the books. He opens everything. He opens the books. He welcomes people. He loves the mountain. This is his life. He wants to protect the mountain. He does everything that is possible to play on this balance of going to the mountain, but protecting him, advocating for him, for this. So, he's a role model. And I'm not sure that everyone understands what we are experiencing today.
100%. What a perfect place to close. And yeah, I totally agree. And you mentioned opening the books. It also reminds me of what he does on his Mountain Athlete blog, where he catalogs his training and he shares everything that he does and the rationale behind it. Certainly the type of information that I think a lot of athletes would have the instinct they need to protect it. It's the secret sauce that's led to this incredible career. Kylian, of course, exemplary athlete, but also a great person, worthy of admiration. I'm sure it's really fun to reflect on the 20 plus years that you've known him, going from the young unknown UTMB champion to everything that he's done. Well, Jean-Marc, buddy, so good to connect. It's amazing. It's been so fun to follow, each other over the course of time. I'm so excited to see what you guys have up your sleeve at Satisfy. Congrats on this new chapter, and thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, come at TRE and meet with us and breathe, and you won't be disappointed, I would say. Hey, thanks, Divo.
See you there.